Your parent told you that you were the problem. They said it directly, or they implied it through sighs, looks, and silence. They made it clear that if something went wrong, it was because of you. That message didn't arrive once. It arrived repeatedly, over years, until it stopped sounding like something they said and started sounding like something you believed. But they were wrong. This isn't motivational talk, meant to make you feel better for a moment. It's not affirmation, and it's not denial. It's psychology. It's how the human brain adapts to unsafe emotional environments, especially during childhood, when survival depends on attachment and approval. For millions of people, childhood didn't feel unsafe because of strangers, accidents, or obvious danger. It felt unsafe because of the person who was supposed to protect them. The danger wasn't loud or dramatic. It lived in tone, unpredictability, criticism, and emotional withdrawal. Home wasn't a place to rest. It was a place to perform, anticipate, and avoid mistakes. If you grew up being told everything was your fault, this is for you. If you were labeled too sensitive when you were hurting inside, or too difficult when you had needs, too lazy when you were exhausted, or too much when you expressed emotion, this is for you. If love felt conditional, earned only when you stayed small or useful, this is for you. What you experienced has a name. It has patterns that show up across families, cultures, and generations. And most importantly, it has a way out that doesn't require you to forgive what hurt you or pretend it didn't matter. Emotionally abusive parents rarely see themselves as abusive. Many genuinely believe they are doing the right thing. They frame their behavior as honesty, even when it humiliates. They call it preparation for the real world, even when it destroys trust. They call it tough love, even when it teaches fear instead of resilience. Intent does not erase impact. Psychology tells a different story. Children cannot regulate adult emotions. They are not meant to absorb frustration, anger, disappointment, or unmet needs. When a parent repeatedly blames a child for their own stress or unhappiness, the child doesn't argue. The child adapts. They assume responsibility for things they cannot control, because the alternative feels more dangerous. This isn't discipline. It's emotional role reversal. The child becomes the emotional stabilizer, the peacekeeper, the problem solver. Over time, the nervous system learns that mistakes equal danger, and that being imperfect threatens connection. Guilt becomes automatic. Fear becomes normal. Children believe caregivers by default, not because caregivers are always right, but because survival depends on attachment. A child needs connection to stay alive, both physically and emotionally. When faced with a choice between believing my parent is unsafe or I am the problem, a child will almost always choose the second. Believing you are broken preserves hope. Hope that if you change, love will come. That belief kept you alive. It helped you survive emotionally. But it didn't stay in childhood. It followed you into adulthood, long after the original danger was gone. Adults, raised under chronic blame, often share the same invisible patterns. They feel responsible for other people's emotions, even when no one asks them to be. They struggle to identify their own needs or trust their own perceptions. They carry shame without knowing where it came from. They fear conflict because conflict once meant emotional abandonment. They fear being left because love was never stable. They live with a constant sense that they are falling short. These are not personality flaws. They are adaptive responses to emotional danger. Your nervous system learned rules that once protected you. Mistakes equal rejection. Needs equal punishment. Silence equals safety. That is conditioning, not character. Here is the truth: most survivors never hear. A child cannot break a parent, but a broken parent can break a child. Many emotionally abusive parents are dealing with unresolved trauma, narcissistic traits, depression, emotional immaturity, or untreated mental illness. These factors explain behavior, but they do not excuse harm. Understanding this is not about forgiving them. It's not about reconnecting or reconciling. It's about releasing yourself from responsibility that was never yours to carry. The guilt you carry was trained into you through repetition. The shame you feel was projected onto you, transferred from someone who couldn't hold it themselves. Psychologists call this emotional inheritance. When children absorb emotions and beliefs that belong to the adults around them, here is a grounding reality check. You did not cause their anger. You did not cause their unhappiness. You did not fail them, no matter how often you were told you did. You were handed emotional weight that did not belong to you. And you survived anyway, even when survival required self-erasure. Healing begins with accurate attribution. When guilt appears, instead of obeying it, pause. Ask yourself, what part of the situation was actually under your control? If the answer is none or very little, that guilt is not truth. It's a trauma echo, a reflex left over from a time when you needed it. This process is uncomfortable. It challenges old wiring. That discomfort doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means healing is happening. Boundaries restore safety. Healthy adults rebuild them intentionally. This means you stop over-explaining yourself to people who misuse explanations. You stop managing emotions that were never your responsibility. You allow others to be disappointed without turning that disappointment into self-punishment. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity, and clarity creates safety. Reparenting yourself is not pretending the past didn't happen. It's giving yourself what was missing. Validation when you struggle. Consistency when things feel uncertain. Emotional permission to exist without justification. When your inner voice says you're failing, you respond by saying you're learning. That response changes the nervous system. Neuroscience shows self-compassion physically calms the brain and body. This isn't positivity, it's biology. At some point, something shifts. You stop asking what's wrong with you. You start asking what happened to you. That question opens space for understanding instead of blame. It allows grief without self-attack. It allows growth without punishment. You were never the problem. You were a child adapting to survive in an emotionally unsafe environment. And the moment you stopped believing the story that blamed you, healing began. You were never broken. You were responding exactly as a human being does when love is unpredictable.